This week on Live Action News Now, we break down the history of how Planned Parenthood became the nation's largest abortion chain. Did you know that in the beginning they opposed abortion? Plus, meet the man, not the woman, who led the charge in Planned Parenthood's decision to start killing babies. And finally, did Planned Parenthood appoint black leaders to quell suspicion of black genocide? Live Action Nation, let's go. Hello and welcome to Live Action News Now. I'm your host, Juan Garcia, and if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any updates. Margaret Sanger has a very controversial history as an enthusiastic supporter of eugenics and as a member of the American Eugenics Society. Eugenics is basically the practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations as by sterilization, to improve the population's genetic composition. And that philosophy not only fed her work within the Planned Parenthood movement, but her lesser-known advocacy of euthanasia as well. Under the philosophy of eugenics, minorities and the poor, as well as others deemed to be, quote, feeble-minded or unfit, were sometimes sterilized by the state. And at times, state sterilization boards used Planned Parenthood to commit these surgeries. Sanger's advocacy of eugenics reveals that her desires was initially to sterilize those she deemed unfit. It wasn't until after these inhumane eugenic methods were challenged in court that abortion was introduced into Planned Parenthood as an organization. But believe it or not, Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger actually opposed abortion. She did not introduce abortion to the organization, it was actually a man who did that. Alan F. Guttmacher, after whom the pro-abortion Guttmacher Institute is named, he was elected as president of the PPFA, the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, in 1962. Planned Parenthood was initially reluctant to perform abortions. That is until Guttmacher came on the scene. Before making millions of committed abortions, Planned Parenthood even admitted that abortion takes a human life. A Planned Parenthood pamphlet from 1952 reads, quote, "Abortion kills the life of a baby after it has begun." In 1966, Guttmacher compared the world population with the threat of nuclear war, telling the Washington Post that governments may have to act officially to limit families. It may be taken out of the voluntary category, Guttmacher said. In spite of national calls for coercion to slow down the rate of population growth, Guttmacher instead advocated the decriminalization of abortion as an effort that he felt would accomplish the same result. Guttmacher had been an outspoken advocate for decriminalizing abortion for years, but he became especially obsessed with abortion while in New York, eventually serving in 1968 on Governor Rockefeller's commission to examine the abortion statute in the state and make recommendations for change. Guttmacher did not view the life of the child as equal to the woman. Abortion historian Daniel K. Williams said Guttmacher can be credited with pushing the so-called, quote, health exceptions for abortion by defining life to include mental well-being. Guttmacher claimed that there were instances in which it was appropriate to protect a woman's life by taking the life of her fetus. Guttmacher called abortion family planning, and in a July 1969 speech, he pushed the decriminalization of abortion, saying, "It is time that we come to grips with two methods of family planning which we tend to skip over in this country. One is abortion. I doubt that any of you is satisfied with the archaic, punitive, and medieval law that now exists in your state and mine, which permits abortion to be done only to preserve the life of the mother. Almost all realize that liberalization of the abortion law is absolutely essential to permit the practice of good, honest medicine, not hypocritical medicine, but honest medicine. The question is, how extensively should we liberalize the law?" The problem they had was that the very people which Sanger and her eugenics board and Guttmacher with his abortion advocacy push targeted, the black community, viewed birth control and abortion to be genocidal efforts to limit the growth of the black race. And Planned Parenthood had noticed that their own minority patients had been on the decline. So what are they going to do about that? Okay, so as we just learned, it was under Dr. Guttmacher that Planned Parenthood began referring for and eventually committing abortions. At the exact same time that abortion was being pushed publicly, the organization elected a black chairman to roll out this agenda. All of this transpired in the late 1960s, a time when America was in conflict over the struggle for the civil rights of black Americans. During the 1960s, when America was in struggle, Planned Parenthood went on record to recognize decriminalizing abortion and ironically added black members to Planned Parenthood's board. On July 1st, 1970, Planned Parenthood's Center of Syracuse became the first affiliate to offer abortions. The following year, the New York Times announced that Planned Parenthood was set to open the abortion facility in New York. During this time frame, many of the organization's leaders were concerned about overpopulation. The organization's history is steeped in eugenics, and this ideology manifested itself in many ways, including the forced sterilization of black citizens. As laws about these eugenics courts began to be challenged, a new tool of eugenics was making its way across the land: abortion. However, there was a slight problem, because black citizens and other minority groups were already suspicious of birth control efforts aimed at them. How would they feel about abortion? After dialoguing internally about the unease of the black community, the suggestion was made to add black members to Planned Parenthood's board. This took place at the same time that Planned Parenthood was calling for the decriminalization of abortion. According to a New York Times article from November 14, 1968, the first time that Planned Parenthood went on record calling for abortion, they also elected their very first black board chairman to roll out the new agenda, Dr. Jerome H. Holland, who, according to media reports, pledged his support for the group's program, saying that those who call birth control a form of genocide are, quote, not aware of the real meaning of family planning and its uses. Today, many within the black community still see abortion as a tool of eugenics, and the abortion statistics show that it has become a leading cause of death of blacks in the nation. Margaret Sanger's vision of limiting birth among certain races may not have begun with abortion, but appears to have led to abortion. And finally, since its inception in 1916, Planned Parenthood has used snappy-sounding taglines that make them appear as if they're for health and families. But could Planned Parenthood's cleverly crafted slogans be disguising their real mission of furthering eugenics? This 1972 poster from Planned Parenthood reads, "We think children are priceless too." This was published 1 year before the infamous Roe v. Wade decision overturning state laws restricting abortion. However, despite the ad's claim that Planned Parenthood viewed children as priceless, Planned Parenthood fully supported abortion and was already providing them in New York and openly pushing for abortion's legalization nationally. The ad is so manipulative that at the same time it claims children are priceless, it also claims they're awfully expensive, stating, but if a child happens to be unplanned, it could mean financial pressures. You see, a child is not just an extra mouth to feed, it's a whole nother life to be provided for. So naturally, Planned Parenthood was more than willing to help by eliminating the life before anyone had to, quote, provide for him or her. Priceless indeed, I guess. Now, before I leave, I want to give a major shout out to my friend, my best friend, researcher Carol, for putting together all the information you saw in this show. She's the best, and I want you all to please give her love in the comments. For the latest in pro-life news, visit our website at liveactionnews.org and follow us at Live Action News on social media. That does it for today's show. I'm Juan Garcia. Thanks for watching Live Action News Now. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss any updates. Garcia out.